In the winter of 1692, 5 people entered Black Hollow village, and history forgot their names on purpose. Black Hollow was a small settlement, buried deep in the New England forest. Snow covered the ground year-round, and the sun rarely reached the village square. At its center stood an old wooden church with a cracked bell tower. The bell had not been rung in decades. The 5 were Thomas Hale, a traveling historian, Margaret Wells, a schoolteacher, Jonathan Pike, a carpenter, Elizabeth Moore, a midwife, and Samuel Crow, a priest sent by the colony. They came to document rumors. Villagers claimed that every 10 years the bell rang by itself, and 5 people vanished the same night. The locals begged them not to stay after sunset. They stayed anyway. That night the wind stopped. No animals moved. Snow hung frozen in the air. At exactly 11:11 p.m., the church bell rang. Once. The sound was deep, wet, and wrong, like metal striking bone. Samuel crossed himself. That bell hasn't moved in years. Outside footprints appeared in the snow. 5 sets, leading from the church into the forest. Elizabeth whispered, "Those are our footprints." The bell rang again. Twice. The footprints began to move on their own. The 5 were dragged forward, bodies stiff, minds screaming, pulled through the trees until they reached a clearing. In the center stood a stone pit, black and endless. Old carvings surrounded it, names scratched into rock, hundreds. Some were crossed out, some were bleeding fresh. Thomas realized the truth too late. This isn't a warning, it's a record. The bell rang a 3rd time. 3 times meant binding. The ground split open, hands rose from the pit, grey, frozen, clawing. Faces followed, villagers, children, soldiers, priests, all screaming silently. Margaret was taken first. Hands wrapped around her ankles and pulled her down. Her scream echoed until it snapped into silence. The bell rang again. Jonathan tried to run. The forest bent, trees twisted inward, forming walls. The snow turned black beneath his feet. Something whispered from every direction. 5 came, 5 must stay. Elizabeth prayed. The pit answered by showing her visions. Midwives burned, women buried alive, babies thrown into snow. History rewritten. She was dragged next. Samuel raised his cross. The cross cracked in half. A voice rose from the pit, ancient and furious. "You rang us once, you bound us twice, you will replace us." The bell rang a final time. Thomas watched Samuel disappear, screaming into the pit. Only Thomas remained. The ground beneath him opened slowly, lovingly. Hands touched his face. "Remember us?" they whispered. Morning came. The village was empty. The church stood silent. In the stone pit, 5 new names appeared, fresh, deep, and bleeding. And every 10 years since 1692, the bell rings. Once, twice, 3 times, and history loses 5 more people.